rise one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
Took me a while to get to this place. I'm so glad I'm in this space, accepting all my flaws, embracing authenticity, 'cause there's nobody quite like me. Oh, I like being me. Who I'm created to be, original, not to copy. I'm gonna step on me, to love again. Gonna celebrate this life, walking who am I supposed to be, refuse to give up on me. To love again. Gonna celebrate this life, walk and live. Every trial that came my way, I was searching for a brighter day. That day finally here. That day finally here. Through life's struggles, ups and downs, I'm so glad that I have found love that's unconditional. Yeah, all I went through prepared me. All God wanted me to be. I'm gonna tap on me, to love again, love me again, celebrate this life, walking who am I supposed to be, refuse to give up on me. To love again, to love me alone, celebrate this life, walk and live. Oh, it's incredible. This joy is unspeakable. Living life with no regrets. Each blessing was a blessing. I'm gonna tap on me, love again, celebrate this life, walking who am I supposed to be, refuse to give up on me. Love again, celebrate this life, walk and live. I'm gonna clap, 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 learning to love all over again, celebrate this life. I'm gonna, yeah, clap, 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 clap for me, celebrate this life. Now for me, learning to love me over and over again, yeah. Clap, clap, clap. I'm gonna celebrate me, celebrate this life. I dream to be, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Clap, clap, clap. Gonna celebrate this life. Walk and live. Gonna give my life.
Happy Saturday, and thank you for joining me on Next Level with Trenace. I'm so happy that you are spending 60 minutes, give or take, of your 1,440 minutes of your Saturday with me. The staggering statistic, 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys is a victim of child sexual abuse. Children are most vulnerable of CSA between the ages of 7 and 13. Today's super special guest is Letitia B. Russell, empowerment speaker and author of The Naked Truth. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to join. So could you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Look, I'm a motivational speaker. I always say, I'm a coach. I teach you how to be and live in your authentic self. And I've been speaking for several years now as it relates to the topic of childhood sexual abuse and just trauma overall, because there is, unfortunately, trauma isn't just within that childhood sexual abuse era, right? And so I've lived it. And so I really, when I speak to it, I allow people to see me vulnerable in that space. And so that is, ultimately what I do and what my platform is about.
That is great, and a lot of is going on in the sexual abuse, trafficking, sex trafficking, children trafficking. That has become like a super hot button at this point. More recently, I'm glad that is now brought to the forefront. Unfortunately, it was probably done a lot in the past, but now with social media and phones and all of the technology that we have at this time, it allows us to see something that has been so hidden before, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even more. It's always been important. It's always been important to bring it to the forefront, but it's even more so important now when we are in this pandemic and you have many children that are home, right? When schools shut down early and they were not able to attend, it's scary to think of our young kids that are now home and in many times with their abusers. And so this is a time to speak up. This is a time to really engage your children, to speak to them, to really understand what they might be going through.
Now, see, that was something that I really hadn't thought about, but that's right in the line of domestic abuse because you're right there probably in the home and the abuser has direct access and there is no escape for the person being abused because you're right there in the home. So that's something definitely we definitely want to watch out for our neighbors. I know that we don't consider nowadays we don't really look at our neighbors as our responsibility, but for me, my neighbor is my responsibility. You're upstairs, you're downstairs, you're next door, you're in another building, in another home. That is so super important, especially now with us being at home. That's a really great point.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into the naked truth. Do you mind if I read an excerpt to the listening audience?
Not at all. Go for it.
Great. What I liked, what you sent me is round 5, Am I Enough? It's time again, time to get back into the center ring. As I steady my stance, I approach my opponent, looking my enemy directly in the eye. I'm ready to take this challenge on once again. Round by round, I'm fighting to win. But something is different this time. I don't feel like it doesn't feel like the other rounds. I no longer possess the same confidence I had in the beginning of the fight. My spirit is broken to the core. My self-esteem is at an all-time low. This woman I've become isn't the fighter who first began this battle. What happened to her? Has something changed within her? Is this how badly life has done her? So that paragraph, I imagined you fighting. I imagine. And can you tell me what you were thinking in that moment when you were writing that particular portion?
Yeah, it was tough just writing and putting things really in black and white because you relive those things that happen. And so as I was writing that, I started to think through just my life, things that had taken place. I utilized the boxing theme because, A, I enjoy boxing, but B, more so because it spoke to me because my life has been, I say, full of knockdowns, right? Every time I've gotten back up. And so when I think about that chapter specifically, Am I Enough? I think about suffering childhood sexual abuse. I think about the physical abuse that I went through. I suffer from alopecia, so I think about hair loss, all hair loss. I think about almost losing my life when I had my children, both of them. I think about being diagnosed with neuropathy. I think about even at the age of 43 today, probably a month ago, if that, being diagnosed with menopause and everything that comes with it. And while you probably are wondering why share, because, it's simple. I can't tell you without sharing my story. It didn't break me. It made me stronger. So as I think about the things that encouraged me to really put down on paper as it relates specifically to that chapter, those are the things that I think about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being so transparent. I like to believe that our life is not just for us to live our life and just live through it. Our life is for a remnant of people that we're going to connect to somewhere down the line. Someone may be watching us from a distance. There may be someone that we directly come in contact with. So thank you so much for your transparency. Let's discuss the top 3 elements of your book.
Yeah. So I talk about childhood sexual abuse, of course. I'm dealing with that at a very young age. I'm at the trusted hands of, at that time, my mom's second husband. And, it was one of those things where when she had gotten remarried to him, or gotten married to him, remarried overall, it wasn't a feel-good in our household, right? It's myself, and then I grew up with 2 brothers. And it wasn't a feel-good. But, of course, my mom is grown. So my mom married him. Shortly after being married, he began sexually abusing me. He was already physically abusing her. And so I grew up in a physically abusive household. It wasn't just with the second husband. My biological father abused her. And so my grandmother, unfortunately, abused her physically. And so just growing up in that space. And so I talk about that in my book. I also talk about the physical abuse. Again, as I just hit on, it wasn't just being sexually abused at a young age, but at a young age, and me acting out as a result of being sexually active at a young, or sexually abused at a young age, I began to become sexually active at a young age. And so I talk about all of that. And when I tell you, I truly become vulnerable in my book. The naked truth. I get naked and I tell you everything that I've endured in my life. And then at the end of it all, I dealt with alopecia, which was a more recent diagnosis. As it relates to alopecia, I am now bald, and I've been bald now for probably 12 years, but I covered it up with wigs or weaves for many years. And at the end of 2019 is when I decided to just say, enough is enough. If I am now speaking to men and to women about being your true, authentic self and living in your truth and being free, then I can't do it halfway, right? I have to step both feet in and go with it, and that's what I decided to do.
Wow, that is definitely that was definitely a decision that I'm sure it was very freeing. to not be concerned about, what's that song by India Arie? I'm Not My Hair. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is freeing, and even now sometimes I'll go back and forth and say, okay, am I gonna put this wig back on? I want a cute style because I'm seeing certain styles when I flip through IG or when I flip through Facebook. But when I tell you, it is, you hit it, you spot on. I am free. It is a feeling I cannot explain. But not having hair, I don't even think about it anymore when I walk out. And I think sometimes I have to remember when I get the stares, because people still stare, and I'm sure people still talk amongst themselves, but I don't think about it. And sometimes I'm reminded when I'm saying, why are they staring at me? Oh, I forgot, I'm bald, right? And so you always have those individuals that will stare at you and ask questions, but they're afraid to come to you and ask the question.
Well, when I saw your photo, I didn't think that that wasn't my thought. I was like, she is very beautiful. I want to shave all of my hair.
Thank you.
That was not my thought.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, every time I see someone with a woman that's bald or even natural hair, it makes me think about it, but then, no. Not yet. Maybe not yet. Not yet.
Now, if you don't get me wrong. If you don't have to, don't do it if you don't have to. But there are ladies out there that they didn't just, they don't suffer from any type of condition. They just don't like hair, right? And so I'm that is fine. I support it. I love it. And so yeah, some women don't necessarily have a condition, but they just enjoy being free. They don't have to deal with having to go to a stylist. Look, especially being in this pandemic today, and then going to a salon to have to get your hair done. So yeah, it's everyone has their choice of why they decide to do it.
Definitely. So, how has writing your book helped you with your healing process?
It's allowed me to, it's different when you think through it, and when you have these thoughts of things that happen. It becomes real when you actually write it down and publish it, right? It becomes reality that these things happen, and now it is time for me to continue to live in my truth, right? It's time for me to begin to still encourage other people who might deal with this or have dealt with this, or even the caretakers who are wondering, how do I talk to my niece or my child about what's going on in school, right? It is hopefully it encourages you or forces that relationship that you might have otherwise been a bit hesitant to have. And so being able to write it and put it down, it has absolutely allowed more healing for me. It's allowed me to forgive on many levels, because when I started, I was angry. I kept asking why. I wanted to confront the person. I don't know where he lives now. I don't know if he's still alive or any of that. But when I started, or before I started this process, I wouldn't be honest to you nor myself if I didn't say I was angry. And honestly, I think that's where the thought of writing the book came from, because I was there in that place. And so it has helped me to heal and allow for me to push past that.
That's a very deep thought. I could imagine there would be more. There would be some anger, some hatred, and always wanting to know why me? Why did you do this to me? But a lot of times we think, why me in a lot of circumstance. But if not you, we wouldn't have you as an empowerment speaker. We wouldn't have you out here serving people, helping prevent childhood sexual abuse. So sometimes in all of our lives, we all think, why did this happen to us? But when you see the things that happen in your life, if it hadn't happened to you, then you would not be able to do the things that you actually do.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I mean, that's definitely something to think about, right?
It is, because and I said this before. If you, I cannot continue to move forward if I am consistently and constantly asking why me. So I've got to flip that and say why not me, right? And so I have this story. So now I need to figure out, what do I do with this? Being angry about it does not help, right? It doesn't help me grow. It doesn't help me. It doesn't allow me to speak to others who might be going through this same thing, and they're asking themselves that very daunting question of why me, and they're beating themselves up. So I learned a long time ago that I have no regrets. I've had to turn this into a lesson, and my lesson is just simply being able to talk and pour into others.
Definitely, I agree with that. When you think about your book and the boxing thing, what made you get back up each time you were knocked down without giving up?
Man, that's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I have to admit that there was a time, and I talk about this also in my book. At the age of 33, it was a celebratory year, the end of that year, and my birthday is in December. So I ended the year with a big party, and people would always say, you're 33, right? You weren't 35. It wasn't a milestone year. It was 33. But that year was a celebratory year because I made it. And that entire year, I was in Atlanta. I was by myself, meaning I didn't have family. I had just gone through a bad breakup, an abusive relationship. And I can remember sitting in the middle of my floor ending style, and I will tell this story over and over again if it helps somebody else. But I remember sitting in the middle of the floor ending style with a gun in my head, suicide note already written. And at that time, I kept asking myself, who would care if I were not here, right? And so what I had to learn was that I continued to, everything that had happened to me up until that point, it kept just pouring on. I never really sought help. I would go see, a counselor and speak to them, but then I would pull back because I felt like I'm telling you my life's history and you can't really help me, right? You don't know my family dynamic. And so I didn't let anybody in. But that year, it was a different year because I made it. I decided to live. And so when you ask me what made me get back up, it was me. It was because I knew at some point I needed to figure out how to turn this thing around, how to build the confidence in order to, at some point, see that I love myself enough to not let the other person win. Because if I were not here, that meant he won, and I couldn't allow that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Thank you for getting that strength within yourself to make that decision to go the other way and survive for us and those who need you. We definitely thank you so much for that. What made you decide that it was time for you to tell your own truth and be authentic about on all levels of everything that's happened to you?
So now, as I am adulting, I have a 3 and 5 year old. And, what I do, I like to say I do it for them because I had to learn how to be a parent, not based on what I saw, but based on what I didn't see. And so having 2 young girls, I had to be very intentional about how I would raise them, what I would do in front of them, what I wouldn't do, what I would allow them to experience, not experience, all of those things. And so I needed to make sure that each and every day I was living for them and making sure that they truly knew just what it felt like to grow up being loved and what it felt like for parents to protect them at any cost. And so they are my reasons today of why I get up, why I tell my story, and why I try and ensure that I am pouring into others.
Well, children are definitely a great reason, a great motivator for most parents, most people in general. I mean, all of my children are adults. I have grandchildren, so now those are my next level of motivators.
Absolutely. They have to be. They have to be.
Right, because the other part of that is you want them to see, not just tell them. Because I don't believe that I don't believe it's right to say one thing and do something else.
Do another.
The way
you got
children
it.
the way that our children learn is by actions and by what we say, and those should always match, and that's just so super important for that
Absolutely.
Match.
Absolutely.
What was your coping mechanism while you were trying to heal?
Prayer for sure. And I have, at that time that I was really just going through it, a really good friend that I really used her to bounce things off of, to just cry to talk to. And, she's that friend that everyone needs, right? That friend that's going to be honest with you, even when you don't want to be honest. Even when you are talking crazy, she is that friend that will check me and keep me in my same place or the right place. And so my coping mechanism was really just making sure that while I was a private person, I think that hurt me more than it helped me. I had to learn, and I have to say I'm still learning how to open up to everyone else, but I was able to open up. So I had at least that one person that I knew no matter what, she had my back. And so I was able to go to her whatever time of day it was with whatever issue, and I knew that she would say the right thing to me. And sometimes, I think we are confused by I don't want to call this person to check in on because I don't know what to say. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. Sometimes we just need you to hold the phone, right? We don't need for you to come to the table with a solution. We just want you there. We just need to know that someone is on the other end that is hearing me, that's hearing my cry, that's hearing my voice, and that's all we need.
Yes, that is so good. And a good listener, an active listener,
Yep.
whether they
Absolutely.
say anything or not, that is so
Yep.
super important because a lot of times we just need to get it out. And once we get it out, that clears that space for us to think. It gives us that freedom to release even that emotion in that moment without having anybody to sound off to. That prevents growth and even that movement into healing.
It does. It absolutely does. And I want to hit on one just quick thing. You hit it, active listening. And I think what's also important is that so many times we are guilty, and I say we because everyone else, we're guilty in the sense that when someone says something, sometimes we are too busy preparing a response that we're not able to hear what the person is saying. And so, that next time that you are able to be there for someone, make sure that you practice just really being there in the moment, not prepared to answer a rebuttal, but yet you are just simply there and present.
Yes, that's good. That's real good. A lot of times I'm guilty of being prepared.
We all are.
I'm guilty for being prepared to give you that answer. As you're talking, I'm just calculating how I'm going to answer you.
Yeah.
So, that's so good. So what do you believe has made you better as a person now?
I have to admit my kids, right? That's, everybody always says that, but my kids. I don't know if I would be where I am today. I don't know if I would truly, be living my full authentic self. I don't know if I would be sharing my story in this great detail. I don't know if I would be bald today, meaning would I still be rocking my wigs and my weaves if it weren't for them. And I do it for them because I cannot and will not have them growing up, especially in today's climate, ever questioning who they are and whose they are, right? I never want them to wonder that. And so I do this because of them, but I do it because of me now, right? It feels so good that I have truly just been able to talk about it and truly say that it's what healing looks like. It is what I've gone through the storm, but I've come out on the other side of it, and it's what strength looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Does being sexually abused impact how you raise your girls?
It does. It does. I've gotten better. I continue to get better over time, but it does. It makes me more aware. I ask questions even at the age of 3 and 5. If my kids come home from school and, they might say I don't feel well or something hurts or what, I make sure that I'm engaged at that moment, right? Sometimes as parents, we all are guilty of, hold on one second, baby, I'll be right with you. I ensure that I'm stopping to ask the right questions. Everything that I went through, my job is to protect them. And I pray that they will never go through that. But my job is to protect them. And that is, making sure that I am just very in tune with them and their habits and their questions, even though the questions that they will have later on in life might be very uncomfortable for me. I have to make sure I'm still in the right position, that I'm able and ready to answer the questions, even having those open discussions with them.
Right. I believe the parent is the best advocate for the child, and it's our responsibility. They didn't ask to come here, So certainly, because we requested them to come here, we should do everything humanly possible to protect them, to support them,
Right.
To encourage them, to build them up.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can't make everything perfect for them,
Yeah.
but we can do the best that we can. And even after they're adults,
Absolutely.
we still, I'm trying to figure out how I can still protect them and make everything perfect, especially with what's going on in this country. We're just, it's just, our homes should be a safe space for our children.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
All the time. And they should be able to feel free to come and talk to us about anything and everything.
Absolutely.
Anything and everything. So definitely keep on doing that. They won't appreciate it when they become teenagers, but they'll remember it when they get 20.
Yeah. It'll be hard. They will push back at every opportunity the older they get, but they will. The goal is that they come back and they recognize and say, I get why you did what you did and why you said what you said and maybe why you were hard on me, right? And so they come back around.
Definitely. So right now, during this pandemic, you are not out and about a lot. So what are you doing any virtual events?
I am. So I've been doing I have a couple features in a couple magazines that I've done and then another one coming up. And so I also will do various events like this and different radio podcasts. Most of the things that I do, not most, all, I will either have on my website and then also I'm pretty engaged with my Instagram account, and so I typically will post various events that I have coming up or going on through there as well. And so not in person. I'm hopeful that I can get back to it fairly soon, but definitely still making sure that I try and keep my network engaged in the things that I am doing.
So I believe that once an author publishes their first book, that's not it. Is there something else that you might be working on?
I'm thinking about it. No, I do. I do have two things that I am really thinking about. I can't say what it is yet, but I am. I've been praying on it. Let me say that. I've truly been just really praying on it. And I think probably, initially I actually said before this pandemic hit that I was looking at this year to put something else out, but I think I'm going to sit tight for a little bit and just continue to, publicize the book that I have various events, get out there, and then I will look at doing the other project that I've been thinking about.
How long has this book been out?
It has been out since October of 2019, so fairly new.
Okay. I'm going to have to get this because it looks like it's going to be a good read.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am. Spread the word. Spread the word.
That's why I try to bring great guests like you to my show, my new best friend.
Thank you.
I love to share someone who the people may not have heard of you, or people have heard of you and they may want to know more. So I really appreciate finding somebody new to share with my listeners. It's just always great to have somebody inspirational on and the world is not full of all bad things and all bad people, and the world is not all that bad. There are so many great things, beautiful things that are happening, and we can't just think that our life is just that newsreel that's going on CNN and CNBC, and that's not all. Everything that's going on in life. There's some great things going on in life.
Yep. Nope, it is. It's still great people and to your point, you turn on the news and all you see is a lot of bad. But there yet is still so much good still going on. And so, I have to say, I just challenge you, your listeners, to get out there. This is a time, right? Most of us are all home. So this is a time to start finding those people that you might not have otherwise found on your own or encountered, and just begin to follow them and listen and, allow them to pour into you as well in these tough times. Everybody has a story. It's not my story, but everybody has a story.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What advice would you give to someone who is suffering today?
Yeah, I live by 3 solid things, and I share my story, not just to share, right? There is absolutely a reason. I share my truth because somebody needs to hear it. People need to hear it. So I challenge you to live your life full of just endless possibilities, right? That person that's going through it, know that you are needed. Never second guess or question why you're here, why you're existing today. That brings me to my other one is just live. Don't just exist. Many of us at times, again, you heard me say it, I questioned why I was here. Would people really love me or care if I were gone? But I had to tell myself and be very intentional about continuing to tell myself that I'm living. I'm here to live. I have to see this through. And so I challenge you to live, not just exist. And sometimes that's work for people, right? It's not always easy. So the biggest word is being intentional. And then the last thing I'll say, and it's a big one, is I challenge you to let go of the things that's weighing you down. The things that people that don't add value to your life, the things or people that's not purposeful. And so if you're going through something, you need somebody that's going to be by your side and that's going to lift you up during those moments.
Yes, definitely. So what does Letitia B. Russell's next level look like?
Good question. My next level looks like, my possibilities are my dreams. My possibilities are making things happen and putting it into action. My possibilities is to put things in action and watch it manifest. That's what my next level up looks like. Watching things manifest and not just sitting and just talking about it, but doing about it.
Yes, that's definitely next level. What are the 3 things that you wish for the listeners to take away from this show? If they didn't hear anything else, if they were just distracted with kids playing or distracted, what would be the 3 takeaways? Because they're going to listen to this again. So what are the 3 takeaways that you want them to have?
Absolutely. And it goes back to what I shared a few minutes ago, but what I'll add to that is, my trauma taught me so much more than what it took from me. So don't allow that moment of you being, or of you dealing with trauma or you second-guessing yourself. Don't allow it to just truly break you. The other thing is, every time you fall, it's okay, right? It means you're learning, you're growing. But make sure you get back up. And sometimes that's the hardest part is getting back up. You put one foot in front of the other. You survive one day at a time. And at that point, you know that each time you do that, you are growing. And then the last thing that I'll say, and I'm going to explain it to you, you haven't had best until you've had better. And what I mean by that is so many times in life we say, that person, that thing was better than the other person because he didn't hit me, because he didn't put his hands on me, because he didn't talk down to me, right? But you have to be able to live and understand and know when best has arrived versus just settling for better.
And with that, you can drop the mic. That was good. That was so, so good. Because, at my age, I'll be 50 this year, and I'm still single. I don't look 50. thank God about that. But a lot of people ask why. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just not willing to settle, and that's not just settling for a mate. It's more to that. It's just not settling in life, not being content with your job if you know there's more that you want to do, not being content with your health because that runs in the family. Just don't be content with the things that you are accustomed to do because that's the easy way.
It is. It is.
That's the easy way, definitely. So how can the listening audience follow you?
Absolutely. So you can follow me. My website is LetitiaBRussell.com. I'll give it again, LetitiaBRussell.com. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at Letitia B. Russell, Facebook, Instagram. I am still trying to get, more involved with Twitter. But definitely IG and Facebook, it's Letitia B. Russell.
So with Twitter, the trick that I use is I connect Instagram to Twitter. And that way, I don't have to do the characters. That way, because sometimes I can talk a lot. So, no, we can do it just like that, and I won't have to figure it out. So that's the easy way.
Yeah. Nope, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Now,
I appreciate you. I'm super excited that you had me on. I just, these are the things that I thrive. I love being able to speak and pour into others. So, as your listeners begin to trickle in, and if they have questions, awesome. But otherwise, as they get the replay, if they have questions, I'm an open book.
All right. Well, great. Thank you, everybody, for rocking with us this afternoon. And definitely thank you so much for slicing out a little bit of your time to share with the listeners. Mrs. Russell, be safe out here.
Thank you
cover
so
your
much.
Mouth
You too.
Everybody cover their mouth when they cough. Wear a mask.
With your arm, and wear a mask.
The ultimate act of self-love is to stay in the house. If you don't have to be out, don't go out. Just be safe, because on the other side of this, I want to be able to see everybody. I haven't had a trip all year. So I want to be able to see everybody. So you guys stay in the house so I can see you later on this year, or maybe next year. I hope not next year, but everybody stay safe, and join me next Saturday on Next Level with Trenace. As always, I love you. Be authentic, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.